strain. Shared living is one initiative aimed at easing that demand. Carers provide accommodation and support from their own home for adults who have support needs. Our reporter Megan Boot went to Barry to find out more.
Rosie's been coming to Bernie's home for nearly 2 years.
So Rosie loves her sensory pillows and blankets. So when we went shopping, Rosie, you bought that, didn't you, yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she chose to leave it here, so which is lovely.
Rosie is one of around a dozen people that Bernie offers respite care to.
I like being in this room. Downstairs in the bedroom. And sometimes I watch the telly there in the nights.
We provide respite care so that other carers and their families, or their families, can actually take a break, have a break, go on holiday, and the individuals that we look after, they can have a break too, and they can have a holiday. So I've also put all of your toiletries in a bag for you.
The Shared Lives scheme involves 85 carers across the Vale of Glamorgan and Bridgend, helping 47 individuals living in households and 25 in respite care, with individuals referred through social services teams.
So anyone could become a carer. There's no qualifications. It's anybody who shares the same values. Maybe they've got the right compassion and commitment to become a carer, and they've got their own home and they've got a spare room in their house as well.
And what did you do in terms of safeguarding to make sure that that is going to be a relationship that works for everybody?
Yeah, it's a registered service, and as part of that, we do obviously the DBS checks. There's training for everyone, and we got a team of dedicated project workers who monitor and support all of those households and just make sure that everything's in compliance, and also we're meeting the needs of the individual and supporting the carers in their development as well.
Because this isn't just somewhere to stay, it's an opportunity to create communities, build relationships and allow individuals to grow.
Liz Burnett, that report was filmed in Barry in the Vale of Glamorgan. A very positive report, very positive impact that the Shared Lives scheme seems to be having. I didn't know a lot about it actually. Is this the way forward for managing adult social care, do you think?
I think the way forward really is to base services upon the needs of the people receiving them. So we actually focus on what life should be like for those individuals. And Shared Lives, I mean, I was really thrilled to hear that you were going to be covering that today. Shared Lives is just one of those services that is doing phenomenally good work, and I'm really grateful to the members of the public who are helping us with it.
It's a phenomenal thing to take on, isn't it? Building that relationship as well. How important are those relationships?
They're crucial. They're crucial because at the end of the day, if you've got people with disabilities or some form of learning needs, that they need to feel comfortable. They need to feel that they've actually got another home and that's where they're going. And this is what's been achieved with that. It really is a phenomenal success.
And if we're thinking about our older population as well, Antony, how important is it that people have that ability to live independently for longer?
I think it's absolutely crucial, and it's just brilliant to see that work going on in the Vale. Been having conversations with people about dementia care recently as well, and that's one of the things that came up alongside having the dementia strategy and all the medical interventions. It's how do you treat people, and that is exactly it. It's got to be about ending isolation, community continuation, and also, this is what Liz is touching on, care based on identity, on who the people are. So I think that is a really good example that we need to see more of.
I mean, we often talk a lot about the crisis in adult care and lots of negative news around it, so it's great to see something that's happening that's positive and what we can do in our communities. But Elwyn, I suppose there's the other side of it, isn't there? That it relies a lot on that goodwill from people, goodwill from carers, yes. People who are willing to take on quite a responsibility, which they obviously get a lot of reward from as well, but there is that reliance. They've got to go the extra mile off their own backs.
Yes, and it's a huge commitment, and fair play to Vale of Glamorgan and the team in Barry. They're very successful. project there, and we need innovation in the sector. That's what it shows, and we need to learn lessons from places like Barry, and that what can be transferred to other parts of Wales. You know, the big challenge in places where I live in Mid Wales, for instance, that you have something like 26% of the population already over 65. In 10 years' time, that'll be more like 38%. The lack of carers in communities, and that's where the link between the care sector and health sector is important, and that's where the preventative agenda also in health terms is important.
I don't want to put down the Shared Lives Initiative in any way, but it's a very small part of a bigger issue to be solved, isn't it?
It is. There's many facets and different needs, of course, within different groups within society, and what we have to be is have an open mind, and what works in one place might be transferable to other areas, but also the preventative agenda, health agenda, is key as part of that.
There's lots coming down the line, isn't there, Helen, as Elwyn just alluded to there, and we've talked about, we've got an ageing population in Wales. So how do we tackle it? Is this at the moment a sticking plaster?
This is one initiative, and as we were saying, you know, if something works really well here, could it be rolled out? Could good practice be rolled out elsewhere?
Is it really only touching the surface of a much bigger problem though?
I've got a few friends that work in hospitals and things, and they said we all know there's a huge problem with elderly patients who should be discharged home, and there's nowhere for them to go. The family can't get them. There's no care home spaces for them,
and this is where we get the ambulances queuing outside hospitals problem.
And you know, I really hate the term bed blocking, because it almost implies that, you know, oh, how dare that person be there? They're stopping someone from A&E getting a bed. But essentially, that's what's happening to these elderly people. And I think what's more distressing as well is they can be ready to go home, fit and healthy, but then they can actually deteriorate badly from picking up things in the hospital, and maybe become worse when they could have gone home. So addressing that kind of bottleneck and
we know
that
the problem. What's the answer?
It's hard to say.
What the answer is?
Liz, go.
We applied exactly the same principles to that. We have a community resource team that if somebody is declared fit to go home from hospital, this is not to go to a care home because that takes a bit longer, fit to go home from a hospital, we have a multidisciplinary team which has got physiotherapists, carers, occupational therapists. The person can be out of hospital within 24 hours.
Working, though?
It is working.
Where is it working?
Are we not
in the
Vale?
Just in the Vale?
No, there are other areas as well
so
that I can provide.
Needs to be rolled out more to everywhere.
We are learning that, and when the health minister was talking about that we actually need to take care out of hospitals into the community, it is happening in Wales, and we need to share.
How much does that cost? What about the demand that you've got for that? Can local authorities keep up with that demand?
It is a demand.
Because having that team around someone is brilliant, isn't it? But it costs a lot of money.
Demand, but actually what it means is if you work with somebody for 6 weeks, re-abling them, then the time that you then work out what their care package should be, that care package is less. So you actually do save money at that level by looking at it in that way. But it also means you can get people home to their families.
Antony?
I think the bigger problem is then seeing these success stories, which should be applauded, and these ways of doing things differently, which is some things we've argued for a long time. How do we scale that up at the pace that's needed? When we know with dementia, for instance, 51,000 people living with it now, it's going to go up to 70,000 in the next couple of decades. So this problem is going to get bigger and bigger. So how do we've found out what works, but how do you scale that up? Where do you get the resources to do that?
Yeah.
Is it a more community-led that we're going to be looking at there, Elwyn, away from care homes and profit-making care homes?
Well, the point I was going to make in actual fact, this justifies the whole reason why there needs to be much more emphasis on economic development to get a better balance and age profile within our communities, but also justifies the whole argument for changing the funding formula for Wales and for Burnett, which has been in the same as it is from the 1980s, to change that to properly reflect our needs and demands.
Soon, we've still got the social care problem.
Yes, but that's why we need a unified approach, and really all political parties, whatever persuasion, so sign up to that agenda.
And Plaid Cymru have talked about a national care service. 81,000 people currently rely on care in Wales. Council's reportedly spending £69 million overspend in March. Is a care service going to solve all that, or is it just going to need more money ploughed into that then? And where do you get the money from?
Well, there's a limited pot, obviously.
There's always a limited pot, isn't there?
But the integration between health and social care is key in the next 4 years.
Are we walking into a crisis here, Helen? Is it? Are we already in it?
Well, I think that Wales is spending generally more per head on health than the other parts of the UK. So, and I think, you know, when the Sloman report came out with regards to the NHS and where the money was being spent, the implication was it needs to be spent in the right places, that the funding was there, but the money needs to be spent in the right places. But ultimately, it's going to be a long time before this bottleneck in social care is solved, whichever way you look at it.
I'm interested, Liz, to hear about the success of these multidisciplinary teams and how you sustain that. And because we've talked about this crisis in social care looming on us for so long, if this is the answer, how sustainable is it?
I mean, money is the elephant in the room, isn't it? But I think the point is you have to keep coming back to the individual. How do we care for that individual? How do we make sure that their families are supported so they can care for them for longer? But the whole point of it is to actually say, well, the preventative agenda is looking at the big picture. We actually currently work developing joint provisions with our local health board because we know that is the future, and we need to be enabled more and more to be able to do that, so that we have hubs where we have health workers and social care workers working in the same environment.
And as you say, being enabled to do that means you also have to have the staff. I mean, we talked about this when we've talked about childcare as well. The groundwork needs to be laid because the staff need to be there to deliver these things, Antony.
Again, speaking to the nursing unions their pay has been held back for so long. And again, we keep coming back to money, and you're right that inevitably coming back to money comes back to fairer funding for Wales. But that's a long-term thing that has to be fixed, and you're right to point out we've got to fix these issues now. And it is incredibly complicated, and that's partly why earlier on I welcomed, going back to education, this sort of data systems thinking-led approach. But then also the thing that worries me about that sometimes is touched on bureaucracy, which is a problem in education and the health service. And with the best will in the world, wanted to get good data over long term, I think is something that needs to be done to identify the best ways of fixing these issues, but that can just become another bureaucratic exercise as well. So it's all of this is so nuanced, and I think it needs a lot of cross-party work to make sure, because our communities need this.
Helen, do we need to encourage more people into the care sector, and how do we do that in terms of recruitment, offering them better packages?
30,000 youngsters out of work, I think, in Wales at the moment, not in education or training. I think, pay better, but we need to be able to make it can be something they go into, and even if it's something they start off with and then they progress up. I think there's plenty of youngsters. So, for example, I used to, when I was teaching in school in Cheshire, there were a number of girls who would have liked to have gone into nursing, but they didn't want to go back to university to study, but they might have made good carers. Had the pay been a little bit better at the offer, they might have chosen that as the career path. So I think we're focusing on getting our young people back into work.
The pay needs to be better, Elwyn.
Well, I'm sure you would all agree that the fundamental message is we need to value our carers, the whole breadth of carers within our communities. They do a hugely valuable and important service.
Plenty to prioritise in the next few years. Elwyn, everybody, thank you very much for all your contributions on social care as well. Well, we once again bid farewell to our panel, but make sure you don't go anywhere, because after the break we'll get to know two of the Senedd's newest members a little bit better. See you in a bit.